Hey everyone, we got another Lake of the Ozarks fishing report for you. It's getting towards the end of February. The fish are biting and the water's still cold. As you can hear right now, we've got some rain hitting on the roof here, and it's a really warm rain, which is going to jump those water temps up a little bit. We've had some beautiful days over the weekend and the past several days as well. So, when the temperature gets up in the 60s and 70s here in the winter, and those fish are starting to get more and more sunshine, they're just going to get more and more active every day that progresses here going into spring. So look for the fishing to continue to pick up. Last couple weeks has been fairly slow for me. The crappie have been biting per usual, but the bass have been, day in and day out, a little bit on the slow side. Been catching some nice quality fish. Some days are much better than others, but they're a little lethargic, man. It's wintertime and they're feeling it a little bit. So the report's going to be much the same as it was a few weeks ago when I did my last one. It's going to be jerkbait, jigs, crankbait is going to start getting better and better and better. There's some water temperatures. Most of the lakes anywhere from 38 to 42 degrees. Been warming up a little bit these last couple of days, but I'd say that 41, 42 is going to be seen throughout a lot of the lake. And now that we got this really warm rain, it's almost 60, 70 degrees this morning, I'm guessing. And we're going to get probably a half inch of rain today or more, and that should really help heat this water up, get a little color in it, and get them moving. But baits are pretty much the same. Had some tournaments over the weekend, and the results were good. I didn't fish in any of those. I did slip out for a few hours on Sunday and fish, and we caught a limit of crappie on the Tackle HD Fiddlesticks jerkbait real quick. But bass were a little slow, surprisingly. Usually when crappies are biting, the bass are biting as well. Rain's picking up right now, so I'll try to talk a little bit louder and a little faster. The jig, this is just my Pro Finesse jig from Trophy Bass Company. Got a little small craw trailer on the end of it. We're just fishing that around steeper banks, channel banks. This water's falling a little bit. It's probably raised with the rain that we're getting now, but water's been kind of on the fall. They've been moving a little bit of current finally. So look for those fish to be settling into some of these channel banks and steeper banks, 45-degree banks, shallow bluffs with some shelves. All of these areas, look for close access to deep water and also proximity to areas they're going to move up and spawn. We're going to start, it's been winter time, but we're going to start thinking about spring here very shortly. And these fish are going to want to move shallower and start moving into some of these coves. So keep that in the back of your mind. Crankbait, when you get around, that 42-degree or better, I've catch them on this crankbait in 38-degree water. And sometimes, they're on the bottom and that's just what they want. Use a slow retrieve. I got a 6:3-to-1 gear ratio, 6-gill reel. That really helps you get it down there on the bottom and just crawl it slowly. These fish do not want this crankbait very fast. If you fish it fast, you're probably not going to get a ton of bites. So get it down there on the bottom, just wind it real slow and just have it kind of rooting around in those rocks, and it'll draw some strikes from fish that might not hit a jig or jerkbait, things like that. And you can catch some really, really big ones. I like the crawfish colors. This translucent kind of red one is really good, as well as the brown with orange belly, really good one. Fishing that on 12-pound Bass Pro Shops fluorocarbon line. That's my go-to for cranking, and that's a 7-foot medium heavy Hemdahl rod. This is the rod I'm using for both the jerkbait and the crankbait. The rain is really picking up, so hopefully we'll get this report done real quick. Also, crappie fishing. Jerkbait's been really good. Tackle HD Baby Shad. Got it on a little ultralight rod. And 6-pound Bass Pro Shops monofilament line. Just get that down there on a 16th-ounce head and fish it around brush. If you see them on your live scope in open water, throw this out there and pendulum the bait through them. Just get it on a tight line and let it kind of fall back to you towards the boat. That produces a ton of strikes. Jerkbait's always good on those open water fish. And then, of course, brush piles. You can get almost vertical over the brush piles and present this bait really slowly in front of the fish. And what I like to do is kind of start down low in the water column and raise the jig ever so slightly in front of those fish and kind of trigger them into biting. But that's been a good way to catch crappie. You know, and the jerkbait, I'm leaving for Alabama. So I've got a Bassmaster Open starting down there, and I've got most of my rods put away here. But I've been throwing a lot of the Fiddlesticks jerkbait. Table Rock Shad has been really good. That's what I caught a lot of the crappie on last weekend. Overcast days, the white and the gold blackback orange belly have been really, really productive. So a little bit, you know, cloudier days, those baits just stand out a little bit. The gold, the white, really good traditionally on those overcast days. So keep that in mind when you're out there. Jerkbait, been fishing it really slow. Tapering points, channel banks, really just finding the shad, finding the fish, looking at my Garmin live scope. The live scope is really, really important this time of year. So constantly looking at that, looking for where the fish are going, looking for bait, and then trying to present this bait to individual fish, sometimes that are swimming around, or targets under the water. Really being precise with this jerkbait and trying to fish it around where the fish are. You know, really throwing it at fish I'm seeing on the live scope. Chasing wind around is really productive. But don't be afraid to throw this thing up shallow or throw it out in the middle of the lake. It's really the best, most versatile bait to throw this time of year. So experiment with colors on that. 10-pound line. I got a 6'6" Hemdahl 6-gill rod. That's the perfect jerkbait rod. And I'm using a 7-to-1 gear ratio on that, so I can catch up with some of those fish when they do bite. They like to take off and run with it and put some slack in the line sometimes when they jump on that jerkbait. So yeah, 7-to-1 gear ratio on that. And the 10-pound line seems to be my best all-around line size. And then so the other bait I'm going to talk about, and I don't have one in the boat. I'm headed to Alabama, like I said, to fish the Bassmaster Open down there. And we're not going to be using Alabama rigs in that tournament, so I left them here at the house on the shelf behind me. So, but the Alabama rig's been productive. I'm sure that's what a lot of the guys were throwing in this past weekend's tournaments, and it produced some big bags for a lot of guys, I'm sure. And whenever I've thrown it, I've caught some quality fish on it. It's a good way to cover water. You can move fast this time of year. As opposed to some of these other baits that you have to fish a lot slower. You can throw that out there, and by no means do you want to just reel it in super fast to the boat. You want to crawl that Alabama rig, keep it in front of the fish. Just remember, the fish are not moving fast, so neither should your baits. You know, you want to kind of keep them up, in front of the fish, keep them in the strike zone for as long amount of time as you can. Get it in front of their face and make them eat it. So like 1/8 ounce, 3/16 ounce weights on that most of the time. I will throw quarters on them as well, but I like those two sizes the best. You know, and really kind of experiment with them to see what retrieve they like, what depth in the column they are, whether they're on the bottom or close to the surface. Just really experiment with that bait, sizes, and see what they're reacting to. I'm throwing it on a 7'9", 6-gill Siren rod. I've got a 6-3-to-1 gear ratio, and I'm throwing 50 or 60 pound braid on there, or 65 pound braid, I should say. You know, I like big line. I don't really like the fluorocarbon. I just like to wind into them, let them load up on that bait, and with the braid, you're able to hook them and also get your Alabama rig back. I've been using the same one, and granted, I don't throw it probably as much as most people, but I've been giving it a pretty good shot this winter. And I'm throwing the same Alabama rig that we started with. You know, haven't broke it. You know, haven't got it snagged up in trees. So been fortunate. You know, and that braid really helps. I mean, it just helps, and so does the live scope. I'm able to reel it and know when I'm about to get it snagged, and I'm really using the Alabama rig to present the bait to the fish. I'm chasing down the fish. I'm looking for fish on my graph. I'm throwing around areas where I think the fish are, and really hunting down the individual fish as opposed to fishing the entire bank. You know, I'm going in there, I'm looking on my graph, I'm trying to see where some activity is, and then I'm using my trolling motor to move me around and try to get around some fish that I can throw that bait in front of their faces. And that's kind of what I've been doing with it. You know, some days those fish don't show themselves, they're hunkered down on the bottom, and you just got to throw it and wait for them to react to it. Sometimes you can see them come up on the live scope, but the fishing here at the Ozarks is good. The baits I mentioned should really produce for you, and in the next couple weeks, with this rain we've got going on, with the warm temps we've been having and that we're projected to get, the fishing's gonna get really, really good. As we saw over the weekend, bunch of 20-pound bags, and you're gonna see that you know, all throughout the spring. I anticipate it being a good year, a lot of fish being caught. So hopefully you guys get a chance to get out there, and if you do, good luck to you, and we'll see you next time.